music startup from the cutting edge tech stack and data secrets that create killer beasts to the funding hacks that power your vision. Let's turn code into concepts and revolutionize the future of music. Let me get my presentation over here. Almost present. Let's present it. And we'll go back to the start and kick it off. This is going to be talking about Recoup, a company that I've been building for the past year, building an AI startup from scratch. This is the landing page of our current site, recoupable.com. If you go there, you'll see the landing page and some of the tools that we've been building. You go from the landing page over to the actual application. And so this landing page is mostly a marketing page to have big letters that make people want to click the links. I'm going to be talking about this from the perspective of us building the business. And I can go into the tech details if we'd like. But last week I gave a talk on the specific agents. I was told this week I should make it a little bit different so that the people that are coming to all the talks don't hear the same content, but we can keep it the same, or we can kind of mix it up. Our team is very small. It's just me and my co-founder, Sid. Sid is the money guy. I'm the dev. Sid has a big background in producing music for the likes of Lil Wayne, Beyonce, and other big name musicians. I have a history shipping code. I'm the dev for on-chain music, so I've mostly been focused on-chain for the past 5 or 6 years. What is Recoup? This is the current platform that we have today. Connect an artist, all of your accounts, explore the segments. We scrape all those using AI. We scrape all those profiles. We generate segments using AI, present those to you. Hey, this is the makeup of your fan base. These are the types of people that are engaging with your content. After that, we then provide automated label services. The goal is to give musicians a record label in your pocket. In the same way that Jobs time ago said, we're going to put 1 million songs in your pocket. Now, in the age of AI, you can put a whole record label inside of your pocket. You don't have to go and sign away all your masters. You don't have to get loans that you're going to have to pay back with recoupable loans. You can now just have a record label service with the power of AI for really affordable. So Sid and I have been building together for a long time. The principle here is long-term games with long-term people. The individual ideas might not matter too much, but playing the games with the people, building that team, and continuing to iterate is what's important. Sid and I met back when I was building Mint Songs back in 2021. We then switched over to Chill Pill, which was a music NFT collection. We ended up making $1 million off of that, which made us think a couple of years later we could do creators again. That got us to realize the NFT 10K PFP route was kind of a flash in the pan and not a business model that we could put on loop. We then went into music games and we started to seek funding from A16Z and the Variant Fund. We weren't able to get venture funding, which then got us to go directly to the record labels. Because Sid has a background working with those big named artists, he already had contacts to be able to get Atlantic Records, Warner Music Records. That has been the majority of our funding over the past 18 months, the past year and a half. Using that funding, we then built our first in-house product of SyncStream, which was an NPM package for musicians to be able to put, I'll show it in a little bit, but a little pop-up in the top right of their screen, similar to like a sign in with Google pop-up that you would see. We built that. We learned that most musicians, even if they have their own website, they don't know how to use NPM. And if they do have a dev, that dev is probably working on 10 other projects and he doesn't have the time to do the NPM package. That brought us into Recoup, which is record label in your pocket, building fully at the intersection of AI. I've been building on-chain for the past 5 or 6 years. And so when Sid came to me and said, we're building on AI, I was like, I know everybody in the on-chain space has left to go build on AI. I'm still very convicted that on-chain is the infrastructure play that musicians need. But after a lot of convincing, he said, look, I've already built this app using SaaS Starter Kit. Sid actually showed up one day to one of our meetings and he had already built an app. From zero, he had this app and it scared me because I'm a dev. He's been paying me for the past 4 years. And I thought, oh shoot, this guy that's been paying me can now build his own apps. I'm about to be out of a job. I hate this cursor thing. I hate ChatGPT. It's gonna get rid of my job as a dev. I wanted to shove my head in the sand. Anybody who's using AI, they're not in my reality because they're trying to get rid of jobs. I had a very strong emotional reaction, as I'm sure most of you do the first time that you see it. Either positive, I love it, or shit, this is gonna kill me and it's gonna take away everything. That strong emotional reaction is a defilement blocking our view of reality. This is my personal view. The strong emotional reactions are not the truth. They are a signal that there is a greater truth to be seen. In our view, our goal is to see reality clearly so that we can navigate it correctly. If I think there's a wall here and I'm navigating reality saying there's a wall here, and then one day a left decides to take down that wall, but I'm still operating saying there's a wall here, I'm going to continue to walk all the way around the wall to try to get there. And so the goal is not to say, I know reality, screw any new information, I know it. The goal is, there's new stuff coming out all the time. I'm feeling emotions all the time. These emotions were programmed into me based off of an older reality that no longer exists. How can I use these emotions as signals, but ultimately see the truth? And so while I initially pushed away Cursor, about a week later, I came to my senses, downloaded Cursor, and was like, wow, this is amazing. While Sid, my client, who's non-techie, can build a site, he doesn't know how to take it to the next level and start hooking things in. Me, on the other hand, it took me as a dev, and now it 10x my abilities. I no longer write code. I write instructions, and the AI is doing it all the time. So this was the start of, this was the seed that Sid was able to plant in my head that AI is something that we needed to shift to about 18 months ago. Since then, we've been bootstrapping our funding. If you're building a small business, funding is important. If you're out there building games and stuff, it might be fun, but ultimately it's going to come down to how am I paying rent? Because if you're not paying rent, you can't keep building, you can't keep playing the game. Again, we want to play long-term games with long-term people. Finances are important. The big, in the top left is our main source of funding, enterprise client subscriptions. The big record labels are paying us thousands of dollars a month so that we stay as kind of their internal tech team. And that has given us the platform to be able to keep going without giving away equity in what we're building. Music video games are one-off products that those record labels will come to us with. So Megan Thee Stallion, when she dropped Boa last year, we did a Flappy Bird video game for Megan. You might have seen her doing the video on her Instagram and on Twitter. Lil Uzi Vert, we did a 3D game of a motorbike game for his last album, The Pink Tape. T Grizzly, we just released a shooter arcade game for him. Real Lil Tyler had a ski game. Those are all short-term funds. It's great. We get like a couple $1,000s in. It's good for like a month of funding. But after they pay for that project, there's no recurring benefit that we get. Grants and hackathons, we just, in the last week's talk, we're talking about how we got a grant from Coinbase. And those grants are great because it allows us to align what we're building with a hackathon or a pool of funding that already exists. And so right now there's the Safe Hackathon. There's the Agentic Ethereum Hackathon. Aleph's about to have a hackathon. If you're building a product and you don't know where you're going to find your first customers, look at these hackathons as an opportunity to keep building what you're doing, but apply to these funding pools that are already looking for you to apply. And then finally, retail subscribers. This is the smallest, over time we want it to be our biggest, but really retail wants to pay the minimum amount and they're going to complain the most. If you're charging a 99-cent subscription, you're going to have more people coming into your inbox on a 99-cent subscription complaining about the tool that they're using. Meanwhile, we have these big record labels paying us thousands of dollars a month, and they never complain about anything that we're shipping. And so I originally thought I wanted to build products that are accessible to everybody, and that's how I was going to make a living. I do still release all my code open source, but I realized that you want to sell to the rich because the rich are the people who are going to be able to pay your rent. This is an example of one of the video games we built for Lil Tyler. You can see the sync stream pop up in the top right so that you can sign in with your Spotify. That gives the musicians all the data on the back end, and then we've got the video game on the front end. This is some of the data for the product that we built so far. After about 12 months of building, we've got 2,590 unique accounts, 88 weekly active users, 6,000 monthly recurring revenue. Most of that's coming from the record labels, our enterprise clients. 189,000 comments have been scraped across all socials and 74,000 posts. All of these numbers are very low. I'm sharing them not to be like, look at how awesome we're doing. More just like, this is very realistic. After 12 months of building, this is where we're at. This is allowing me to pay my rent, my co-founder to pay his rent, and this is allowing us to focus on this. Here's an example of one of the funding sources we got last month. Coinbase put out the tweet talking about what I was building. I built 2 different implementations. Both of these were what we already wanted to build into Recoup. We didn't have Eliza built in a month ago. I saw an opportunity to get funding. Sid was also telling us we wanted to be building on these top AI frameworks. 2 birds, 1 stone. I was able to build on Eliza, something I didn't know about. I got paid to learn something I didn't already know about. And then we got $3,000. Great, like it's not enough to like live a year off of, but it was great for a month. And that's what we're playing off of right now is 1-month iterations. This industry is changing so fast. Goal is just like, what are we doing for the next 4 weeks? How do we get the funding for that? And then keep playing this infinite game as long as possible. Here's our overall architecture for what we've built so far. We've got a web app and an API. Web app is built on Next.js with Tailwind. The backend is built purely on Node.js. Our AI model, we use OpenRouter now, but up and until now, we've been using OpenAI. So OpenRouter is a mix of services. If you use OpenRouter, you use one API key, and then every query you send via the API, the OpenRouter decides, okay, we'll use Claude for this. We'll use Llama for this. We'll use OpenAI. And so if you don't know what model you want to use and you want to kind of get the best, using OpenRouter allows you to plug in one API into your backend, and then that model will use all of the top models, whether it already exists or it's going to come out in the future. This is just one option of the many. IDE is Cursor. It's an IDE that has AI built in it. This is how my non-technical co-founder has been able to build a lot of the apps. So if you're a non-technical co-founder and you don't know how to build and you have not already downloaded Cursor, I recommend download Cursor. It's free. Just tell it, build this app for me, and you'll be amazed to see how much it can do with just general English and no knowledge of coding. Hosting, we use Vercel, which is 100% free. We don't pay any hosting costs for Vercel. It does all our deployments. DigitalOcean is where we host our agents, because you can't host an agent on Vercel as of yet. I'm talking with the Vercel CEO and CTO to get that, but so far they don't have that. DigitalOcean costs us $4 per month to scale all of our agents. So all of our ELIZAs that we're running across all of the musicians cost $4 a month. If you're worried that AI agents cost a lot to run and maintain, $4 is the benchmark that I operate off of. If you're paying more than that, you're probably being ripped off. AI frameworks, we started with MakerKit, which isn't an AI framework, but it gave us the chat plugin. Then ELIZA came out. Then AgentKit wanted us to build on them for Coinbase, and Vercel AI is a framework that we were using. I'm not seeing them adapt to the O3 models and the newer models that are being released. And so we have slowly been removing Vercel AI and going directly into OpenAI calls, OpenRouter calls, directly making those calls with the LLMs. This is an example of where we're going now. A lot of the musicians that have been working with us are asking for automated posting. I thought that was just going to be like a flashy thing on Twitter, but it seems like most musicians, when they hear about AI, the first thing they think is, oh, I can have this so that it runs my social for me. And so Teddy Swims is one of the musicians that are on our roster. I don't remember if they're with Atlantic or Warner Records, but this is a proof of concept we built for them. We scraped, all the data that we scraped allowed us to build a custom replicate model. Replicate is like an API service with AI that you can kind of train your own algorithm. So an image generation algorithm. We uploaded all of Teddy Swims' existing Instagram photos, created a brand new AI model, and now we just say, give me Teddy Swims as Captain America, give me Teddy Swims as Batman, give me Teddy Swims, and then we have our own image model to be able to generate for this artist. And now we're building into the product to make that at scale. Any new artist that comes in, as soon as you enter in your data, we then give you the option, do you want an image model for yourself? If you click yes, boom, we now automatically start generating images for you on the fly. What's next? So this is where we've gotten today is what I've already talked about. Over the next month, which is as far out as we're planning right now, as far out as I'm planning, Sid would probably give you like 6-month time frame, but as the dev, I'm focused on 4 weeks. ELIZA V2 is coming out very soon. It's not out yet, but I'm watching what they're doing because they're rolling it out in the next couple days or weeks. It's getting louder and louder. So if you're trying to build on ELIZA, get ready because ELIZA V2 is coming out, and be ready for like any mental model or any framework that you're building on to kind of be broken, just so that you don't get upset when it's totally different from what you're building on now. 2 clients right now, you can go onto Recoup, you can scrape, you get all the actions, and we tell you what to do, but we can't act on it for you. We can't actually post on Instagram, post on Twitter, post on TikTok yet. So that's what I'm building now, are more clients so that we can automatically post and engage from musicians on their behalf on any social platform that they're using. And then more tools. We've already got tools, but it's 1 question answered leads to 2 more questions. So we gave the record labels everything they already asked for, and now they're asking for more stuff. Now they're asking for, can you give me a 30-day content calendar? Can you give me automated TikTok posts? Can you give me a recommendation on which influencer we should be reaching out to for this next campaign that we're doing? So we're just going to keep expanding the suite of tools that we're offering to give the record label in the pocket more power. And that's the end of what I had scheduled. I intentionally left it kind of short so that if we wanted to go on anything else we can, but I'll pause there for any questions. Oh yeah, and this QR is to go on to Recoup. And let me check the live stream if there's any questions over here, but I don't think so. No.
And so if you do have a question, just come up here and I can give you the microphone. So what are the things you learned about hosting in relation to agents versus just normal hosting? What are the big things you found out about agents in terms of hosting them on DigitalOcean?
Agents require always on. Vercel is what every web dev uses, and it's great for up to 60 seconds of live time. So if you make a request and getting a response, if you do that within 60 seconds, use Vercel because it's free. If you need it to always be on, like an agent that is needing to pertain context across different invocations of a function, you need to host on an actual compute instance. So whether you're using AWS or if you're using Google Cloud Platform, those are the industry leaders. I saw DigitalOcean as a lower cost solution that had more concrete billing, and so that's why we picked them. Your question was, what requires an agent to need to be built on like a DigitalOcean as opposed to a Vercel? The biggest reasons are the length of time the API needs to be triggered, as well as the retention of context across invocations of those AI endpoints.
That's really cool. And what are you using the agents for? What are the main things that the agents are good for that an LLM wouldn't be good for?
We do use the LLMs. The scraping was the first thing. Scraping can take anywhere, depends on how much we want to scrape and how big the artist is, but the scraping takes a long time. So the scraping is not something that happens in 60 seconds usually, especially for a bigger artist like Teddy Swims that has millions of followers. And so that's one of the long things. That's our biggest action right now that requires long think times. Everything else is pretty normal of like, we have a reasoning step. We run that through a couple different LLMs to go, like, here's the initial logic, here's our feedback on that logic, here's the verification, and then here's that output. But you can do that inside of a Vercel instance. The main thing that we needed DigitalOcean for was first the scraping.
So for the non-technical people who are just wondering what is an agent, what does it do? It sounds like there's an element of time, so an element of need to be on all the time so that it can do various things without your express, because otherwise, like, how is that different from just the LLM?
Agents have personalities, agents have memories, agents have tools, but so do LLMs. Those are the two things I'd say. Agents have memories and agents have personalities, and LLMs typically don't have those two things, right?
Yeah, interesting. Any other questions?
So what are you going to use the swarms for?
The swarms are so that we can give individual identities to more of the personalities within the label. Let me pull up a tweet from Shaw to make it very concrete what I'm thinking of. But Shaw just put out a tweet yesterday that says, imagine opening up your business account and then you already have like 5 team members in there, each of them with their own unique personality. And so that right now, running Eliza with multiple different personalities, you can't just run an Eliza instance and then swap out the personality with each request. That's something I thought we would be able to do with Eliza. They talk about multi-agent framework and being able to maintain that. I haven't actually seen that in my experience with it. And so what I'm hoping for with V2 is that we can get more swarm-like behavior to be able to manage more differentiated personalities and differentiated memories in the same compute instance so that I don't have to spin up multiple DigitalOceans and go from $4 to $8. I would hate to spend $8 a month.
Thanks for the presentation. It was really good. I'm wondering, I know there was already a talk on Eliza OS, but I'm wondering.
That was me last week.
Sorry, what are you using that one for? I guess maybe we can avoid the question if it's already discussed at length, but just curious in a nutshell.
You asked how are we using AgentKit?
Eliza.
Eliza, thank you. So this is the creator of Eliza, Shaw, and this was a tweet he put out 18 hours ago, so less than 24 hours ago, talking. These are the little leaks that Shaw's doing. That's like, V2's coming out any day now. I see this and I'm like, where is it? Give me the open source code. I want to start writing on it now. Your question was, how are we using Eliza? We're using Eliza to improve our chat. Originally, our chat was built on MakerKit, and it lost a lot of context for, if I asked, can you summarize the conversation so far? What was the first message? Things that required just like more intelligence with how the chat ran. We weren't doing well when we were home rolling it. And so rather than trying to think, how can we build it better than Eliza? I try to be as small brain as possible, pretend I know nothing, pretend I'm the least intelligent person on planet Earth. Eliza's smart, I'm a dumb person. Let me use smart people tool to be smart. And so I bring in Eliza so that I can stay being small brain and just let the smart tools do the smart things for me. Mostly right now, Eliza's used for chat.
I see, okay. So it's just better framing the tools that you currently have.
exactly.
So how are you measuring, like with all the different options, what is best? Like this ELIZA framework you said was a lot better. Were you like, here's a sample input, here's 10 different options, what is their output? And then kind of looking at that qualitatively and making your own judgment call, or are you doing something else to?
Evals. We run our own evals, we've home written them. And so every time I push a change up to our backend, it runs through all those evals, which just like you say, here's an example phrase, here's roughly what we expect to be the output, and then an AI runs it, and then an AI verifies that the output matches, and then all that goes directly into our Slack channel. We have a Slack channel called evals, and so you'll just see it reporting in there, check or X. If there's a sufficient number of X's, that shows that we're degrading our performance, and if we're getting more checks, that shows improving. And so when we did the ELIZA, what we did is we started with the evals. Start with, this is something I expect to happen and is currently failing. Verify that it's still failing in our evals. Then I implemented ELIZA, and then we saw the reds turn to greens. In coding, it's called red-green refactor. You start with an error, you write only enough code to get that red error to change to a green, and then you refactor to make it prettier. That's the simple coding loop. Get to an error, change only enough code to make it work, refactor to make it pretty. Loop that over and over all day, every day until you get to $1 million.
How did you learn that about evaluations? Like for anybody who's building out an AI application, maybe some of the noobs, how do you think about evaluations? What can you tell them to flesh out the idea of the evaluations more?
The Y Combinator videos have been very helpful. Sid and I are constantly sending each other YouTube videos of Sam Altman talks, OpenAI announcements, and I'm gonna go home after this, open up YouTube, and I'm gonna be watching videos that were put out 6 hours ago, less than 24 hours ago. And one of them was from Y Combinator, this lawyer guy who was talking about, he built a law firm on AI. And in that video, they asked him, how have you been able to find such success? And he said evals. And then Sid for the next week was like, where's our evals? Where's our evals? Where's our? And then eventually I was like, all right, let's do evals. And then as soon as we did, it was like, I see why evals are so important. But the answer, how did I get there, was watching YouTube videos of people that are doing it right now, not 6 months ago, not a year ago. What are people doing 6 hours ago?
And you might have answered already that, but what is the number one thing that you would express somebody building an eval to do in that evaluation?
Start with a small list of evals that are the most important topics that you expect your agent to be able to handle. Keep it small at first. Focus on that list and make your initial evals great. Less is more, simple is best, small is beautiful.
Another question. As a relatively non-technical person learning with AI, how to do things, when you start working with a new framework, obviously you have a background in this, so it's more transferable knowledge, but a new framework, a new language, how do you approach learning that? Let's say like before you got on ELIZA, okay, this is this new concept. Do you have kind of like a structure that you use when you go from one tool into another? Would be helpful for me. I'm learning Neo4j, a graph database structure, which is in JavaScript, and it's just kind of a little bit difficult when you're not dealing with purely like technical how do you get X to work in the way you want. It's more like, okay, there's this whole system with so many kind of unknowns, and you have to kind of build a model of what that looks like to be able to then get to the technical questions.
I'll give a concrete example of Arweave. Are you familiar with Arweave? Arweave is on-chain media storage. It's an alternative to IPFS. It's an infra that I wanted to learn. And I had no idea how. I tried reading the docs and I couldn't figure it out. So what I have been doing I've been streaming a lot more recently. Streaming has been a big unlock for me to be able to learn quickly and in public. And so what I'll do is last week or 2 weeks ago, I put out 0 to Arweave in 60 minutes. And I just said, I'm going to figure this out, set a 60-minute timer, and start streaming. I did a 0 to Frames V2 with a couple musicians last week. And so what I'll do is I'll invite, I'm streaming every day, and so people know that I'm streaming every day. And so if I reach out to a smart person and say, do you want to jump on a live stream and help me go 0 to this? They're like, shit, yeah, you're going to give me more visibility, and I see that you're already doing this. And so I'll just invite people. If I don't know something, I'll reach out to a knowledge expert, and I'll say, hey, do you want to do a 60-minute call with me? We'll live stream. You go 0 to @ This idea actually came to me from Greg Eisenberg, who's a YouTuber that I'm actively watching because he does the same thing. He invites smart people in and then let them cook. Give them the space to be able to stream, and then I just watch over their shoulder. And then I'm not actually learning anything in real time, but after that video happened, and then I'm like, okay, now I actually need to build this into my code base. I had the video open on my TV. I watched exactly what he did, and then I'm like, well, what do I do? Let me click play, and now I'm rewatching my life to teach me myself. So what's an example of something you don't know how to do? Or what's an example of something, when you asked that question, was there a specific tool you wanted to learn how to use?
Yeah, like the Neo4j.
Neo4j.
Neo4j is graphic, it's small, and it's different from well, different architecture. I don't have knowledge about this whole thing. So using AI, asking Claude within Cursor these questions.
Yeah.
So not
Right.
that you're grappling with.
Yeah.
And you start watching like YouTube videos, and maybe it's very difficult to find the level of specificity for the problem you're dealing with currently.
Yep.
And so, like, I imagine when you have those like streaming calls, you're a little bit prompting the person by saying like, "Oh, what about if I wanted to do this?"
Right.
You're kind of steering that. It's like a YouTube video, you kind of control
Right.
the direction.
Exactly.
Great.
In Cursor, have you been tagging documentation?
I haven't. This is probably something that's just like a newbie error, but I put in a bunch of documentation and I couldn't read it. I don't know if that was formatted correctly or something. It was too big of a file
Yeah.
or whatever, but it's probably just something I could keep on.
Open up your chat, type the @ symbol, and then you'll see like it'll auto try to complete whatever doc you're writing. When it opens that up, paste your link, and then you'll see an option in the dropdown for add doc. Hit the add doc, and what it'll do is it'll not only scrape the page that you gave, it'll go around to all the adjacent pages to get an understanding of that API or that SDK. And then the next time, you also give it a name of whatever you want that doc set to be. I can't remember the name of, I'll call it SQL. I keep forgetting the name of which one. Neo4j. You'd label it Neo4j. And then after it indexes, give it like 30 seconds to index, tag @Neo4j, how do I do this? And then the question will reference those docs that it indexed. And it'll constantly, every day, every time you open up Cursor, it'll re-index those documents. And so every library that I use, I have indexed, and so I just tag them because you're right. If you don't tag them or give them the right context, they're gonna hallucinate and steer you down the wrong path, and you won't know because you don't know the context. Or it just tells you it doesn't know because, again, it doesn't have the context.
Great, thank you.
So I loved what you said about when and he showed you this app that he built out of nowhere, and you had that emotional reaction. And I want to hear more about now that you're in acceleration. How are you dealing with it emotionally? How are you doing it philosophically? How if you have anything to share with the audience about how they can sort of adapt to this fast-moving technology, coming from somebody who is in the world of technology, has been in the world of technology for a long time.
Everything is different and nothing is different. We think AI is going to change the world around us, and it absolutely is. And at the same time, the same rules apply. If you build consistently and you're practicing sincerely every day, you can build a product that earns $5K a month and have a couple of those products and still win. This industry is going to create a lot. The opportunity, I think, is start building and start practicing now, because 90% of the world is having those emotional reactions, or they're totally unaware that this is even happening. And so if you practice sincerely, consistently, you're building momentum that nobody else has, and stay focused on where the end destination is. Because Sid is constantly throwing at me new things. Today, he threw at me this tweet, and he's like, we need to switch to Eliza V2 now. My initial reaction was I wanted to tell Sid, like, Sid, we just agreed that this was the priority, please don't. And so, like, I had the emotional reaction of like rolling my eyes and sighing. My goal is to see when I have an emotional reaction. In the second I feel that I'm going to reply from an emotional place, disconnect myself. In that moment, I'm starting to know when Sid sends me a new idea, I have an emotional reaction, whether it's positive or negative, I react emotionally. And so I try to see Sid's tweet and don't reply for at least a half an hour. And then I go back, and then I'm able to just give him like a 100 emoji underneath and just be like, awesome, and amplify instead of. Yeah.
Any other questions? You got a bunch.
I got one. How do you have, like, you guys just go spend money on from other vendors, right?
We spend roughly $50 a month on open router costs for our thousands of overall users, but right now we're at about 80 monthly active users, so about $50 a month in total LLM costs. Pretty manageable. Opinion.
So business-wise, for some of the people who are interested in implementing agents into their business, don't have a technical background, what are some of the things in your imagination that you can kind of grasp onto what would be helpful in business? Actually, maybe we should ask. Can anybody just shout out the business that they're running? Maybe it's automation, maybe it's recruiting. Anybody have any business? Love to hear a specific idea on CRM. How could a CRM use an agent?
CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. I have seen CRM tools. I'm not an expert in CRM tools. The concept is going over my head on what it actually looks like or how it could be used.
Like Salesforce.
I think other people might. CRM's a sorry, bad example for me. I don't know anything.
Put me on the spot too.
Attending customers, like maintaining customer relationships. That seems like a good, like what we're actively doing right now inside of Recoup is, for example, let me try to pull up the autopilot page. Let me see if I'm not shut up. So the first step is just using your automations at a greater level. You can already use Zapier to know exactly when someone's replied to one of your DMs, or maybe your existing CRM tool already has an API to know exactly when it responds. Right now, if you're just using automation, you get that insight, someone's replied, but you have no idea how you're going to respond. You have to think about it, and you have to spend those cycles thinking about it. So step one, plug in a webhook. As soon as you get that notification that someone in a CRM card has moved, a new ticket's been added, you're getting a bunch of webhooks from Salesforce for each of those events. Plug that into Eliza, plug that into Cerebros, plug that into Virtuals, whatever your AI framework is of choice. Plug that webhook to hit your backend, generate the response, send that into your email at a minimum. And now you didn't just get a notification that a card was moved or you have a new customer. You got, I have a new customer, a card was moved, and here's how I recommend you reply. I think the opportunity for every industry is what Cursor has done, which is anticipate what my next step is and give it to me before I even say it. The autocomplete in Cursor is incredible. Just the fact that as soon as I start typing, it's like, I think you're gonna write this. And with 90% accuracy, I'm just gonna hit tab, which is why my job now is changed into hit tab and define high-level goals. I can be an incredibly small brain and still run this company just fine. And I think that's where we're at is, and so you doing that for CRM would be great of like, take one Salesforce. I'm gonna do the agent for Salesforce. Your algorithm for what you're gonna recommend, what AI model you use is gonna be different from someone else. And so I imagine while I'm building Recoup as a record label in your pocket, there's gonna be 5 or 6 other competitors. They're just different flavors to us because of what they think a record label should look like and how it should think, and it's the personality and how it interacts with its memories. And so if you build a CRM specifically for Salesforce, someone else could build an agent for Salesforce, but its personality and how it handles its memories and its tool set could be totally different. In the tool set you're building, there might be a million tools, and so it's incredibly hard to actually get the tool you want. Another one's building a set for their agent that's like 3 super hyper-focused tools. And so those 2 companies are incredibly different. They might fill different parts of the market. And so I think the overall TAM right now, we're seeing one individual player like fill it up. But I think over the next year, maybe the next couple months, we're gonna just see, oh, recoupable. Now I know what a agent in the music industry looks like. We're gonna see 10 other college teams spin out a company here in Argentina. And like, I think this market has so much room to grow. Right now, it's just get something out the door with one of the top frameworks, whether it's Eliza, Cerebro, Virtuals, get it out the door so that way you're already playing on the top set of tools possible. Practice sincerely at what your intersection is, whether it's CRM or music or Mate or MediaWitness, whatever your industry is. We're going to be, I think where we're moving is from centralized large platforms that capture 90% of market share to a world of boutique services where it is very small, very focused teams that are earning $1 million a year, $2 million a year, 500K a year, numbers that Spotify would laugh at. But at this point, Spotify is not going to iterate into this industry. And so I anticipate the next 5 years, Google will not be able to pivot, Amazon will not be able to pivot, Spotify will not be able to pivot. Instead, smaller companies like Recoup and the other people that are playing in this industry will create new market share while Spotify slowly finds that its business model no longer works.
Question on building agents for people who are new to it. What's like the simplest that you can think of? Video you can recommend?
Yeah. Coming into this, I wasn't sure if I was going to like build technically or if I was going to give a talk, and I asked Sebas, and Sebas was like, you built an agent last week. Tell them about Recoup because it's what you're actively building. But now I don't know if I did right. The Eliza starter is something someone told me about last week, and it is my go-to now. If you go on to GitHub and you go to the Eliza starter, it is small, it is lightweight, the instructions are easy to follow, and this is going to give you Eliza up and running in. I have a video, it's pinned on my Twitter, that is, I started with nothing, and I got this up and running in less than 5 minutes. I had it running and doing AI stuff in less than 5 minutes. So that is pinned on my Twitter. If you go onto my YouTube channel, I've got 1 million of these videos. But this is what I recommend. You said where to start. I think Eliza is the top framework. The reason I recommend Eliza over any other framework is the amount of contributors that are contributing to it. You'll notice that if you come inside of Eliza, it not just in AI, but in all of code for all history, it has the most stars, the most forks, and the most contributors. And if you scroll through here, I mean, now that they're moving out to V2 and they're slowly splitting it out, you'll see that it's changing, but like stuff's changing last week, stuff's changing last month. Now it's slowing down. When I gave this talk last week, it was changing on an hourly basis. The packages are usually changing, but I think they've just moved the packages to a new repo. And so if you want to build an agent and you say, I want it to be able to send a message on Farcaster, there's already an integration. I want it to be able to post on Instagram, EFGHI, client Instagram. I want it to be able to send a message on Telegram. I want it to be able to create an image. You just go to the image generator. I want it to be able to create a video or TikTok, go to the video generator. I want it to be able to send a message on WhatsApp. And so if you use Eliza, download it, get started in 5 minutes, and then pick and choose. I want this, and this. Add them in, and now you're in an hour, you've been able to set up whatever you're visualizing right now. And then, like I said earlier, one answered problem leads to 2 more questions. And so the goal is get to wherever you're thinking of now, not 6 months from now, but now, because you can get there in about 5 minutes. From there, spend more time sitting down with a notebook, thinking about where you really want to go. Because if you can define where you really want to go, the steps to fill in the place are getting easier and easier to figure out. The hardest part is determining what's the horizon you want to sail towards. The hard part is most people don't know what horizon they want to sail towards. And so they start sailing, a new announcement comes out, I feel my emotions, let's go in that direction. A new announcement comes out, I'm scared, I'm going in this direction. And so you sail in a bunch of different directions, and ultimately you make no progress and you stay in the same place. If you can disconnect from how your emotions are telling you to feel either joy or fear, and you can stay focused on the sincere practice of where you're trying to go, move there 1 step closer every day, you're going to make more progress than most of the people that are trying to build out there but are jumping to whatever the meta is right now.
That's really funny. Just happened. When I started, I put the GitHub in, I used Claude MCP servers to just go try to build one, and immediately started downloading 2 gigabytes on all these random things. So it's a really good tip of going to Eliza starter, right? Because that makes it more simple than the GitHub.
That was the problem I did last week. I was trying to live stream like I am now. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in. Meanwhile, I'm not looking at you guys. And I tried, and as soon as I tried running Eliza, it took longer than 3 minutes. And I'm like, sorry, live stream, I got to stay here and stay focused. And then as soon as I shut off the live stream, one of the guys in the audience in the room right over there was like, why aren't you using the Eliza starter? Can you tell me more about the Eliza starter? And then like, this was a week ago that they told me about it. And since then, let me see if I can pull it up. I have my code base somewhere. Do I have my, I'm not a, nope, here it is. This is my folder where I keep Recoup. And so you'll see like the old games from BOA, which is Megan Thee Stallion. You'll see like the Lil Uzi Vert video game. And then like in the past week, I've done Eliza Starter, 5 minutes 0 to Agent Kit, which is the pinned tweet on my profile. Eliza Recoup Starter, Eliza Starter Instagram. So like now anytime I have a new idea, own the Eliza Starter, just use that Eliza Starter to prototype whatever the idea is. And then if I like that, bring it back into the main product. That way I'm not, because if you always build right into your main product, it's going to slow down your build. It's going to expand the product. Life is chiefly maintenance. And so the second you add something in, you then have to maintain it. And so if instead you keep your product, this is the holy grail, this is truth, this is pure. I have a new idea. I'm going to experiment in this new open field. It allows you to run with your prototype faster. You don't slow down your main product. And then whenever you decide, okay, now we're seeing too much fragmentation between this prototype and our main product, that is the moment when you pull it in your main product. But my personal build methodology is start off, clone a new Eliza, have that prove whatever the prototype is I'm imagining, and then if there's enough demand, bring it in the main product.
So it sounds like you're using it almost as if they're cursors. You are using it almost like as a separate cursor. Each Eliza agent can be used as a cursor.
I mean, all this is in
Or they're
cursor.
different.
Yeah, this is just a directory of all my projects. Like this is just a file on my computer. I don't know.
You're prototyping a new personality or a new action on the Eliza agent.
Exactly.
Go more into personality. What do you mean by personality?
Yeah, in the Eliza Starter, you get a character file inside of source. And so inside of here, they have a default character. And so you use, when you download the starter, this will all be commented out. You just use the character. And so then you can uncomment the things and change what you want. Like in the example I did last week here at Aleph, I wanted it to have a Telegram chat. That way I could throw up a QR on the screen and then everybody in the audience could scan that QR. And then I also, the main goal was demoing Agent. This is something I was trying to prepare and build a Suno plugin, and I found that the Suno plugin didn't work. But I drew in the client I wanted to use. I wanted to be able to send messages on Telegram. I wanted to be able to use the Agent Kit plugin. And then this was exactly what I ran last week in the presentation. And this was the only thing I needed to change. Start at 0, download this repo. I changed 2 things, and then we're good. And if I wanted to change more, I could have. Like, here's the bio. I didn't change the bio. I didn't change the lore. I didn't change message examples. But when we talk about personality, in Eliza, they have a character file where you can define all this stuff. What are some examples of postage? What are some adjectives to describe it? What are some topics it knows how to interact with? And you define it in human readable English or Spanish or Chinese or whatever the language is that you pick. The AI is going to understand it, and then you build your personality in human readable English.
And can you go more into memory as well?
Yeah, with memory, they use, there's plugins. Out of the box, it is going to just store it inside of a SQLite file that you can spin up inside of the repository. That's great for local prototyping. Then you'll want to pick a different one as you scale. Let me see if I can find the photo. Let's go back to Eliza. In the README, they have this great diagram that I think will answer your question pretty well. You already seen this diagram, Stuart? So this is the diagram for how they define kind of the architecture at Eliza, and this is how I've been defining the architecture at Recoup as well. You've got the character, which is your personality. What you were just asking about in terms of like, where's the memory stored? Those are your adapters. Where do you want to put your memory? You want to put it in Supabase, Redis, SQL, SQLite. Pick your own adapter, whatever flavor you want. Pick whatever clients you want, pick your plugins, and then that is your Eliza runtime. You start with a super lean runtime, add on however much more you want, but your question of like how do memories work, Eliza does memories right out of the box in a local SQLite file. And then if you want it to be more robust and scalable, you can plug in any of the adapters that they already have. And if they don't have the adapter you want, build the plugin and you become one of the contributors like myself.
And how, it sounds like the plugins, they already have some of the no-code and low-code automation tools, right? Are you using any of those? You mentioned Zapier and other things. Are you using any of those sort of automation tools with the Not really.
No, I don't think so. I might not be understanding the question, but I don't think we're using any note. Everything we do is definitely code.
Any other questions?
How do you deal with large sets of data?
Can you give an example?
Like entire documentation of any framework you want.
In In what like when I'm,
To have Eliza be familiar with all of this information.
I have not tried to read large documents yet, but it's not been something I've had to do. So I don't know that I'm the best person to answer, or I may not be understanding your question. I don't think I've approached the problem that you're talking about, so I don't have the experience to answer.
Like the context.
No. If you're asking large context, like context window for what we use for API requests,
You could have anything with a problem. You have to do it with Eliza and a Bible. Let's say when you have Bible or Eliza.
would this be a good example? So right now we have, Teddy Swims has 1 million followers, and so we had to scrape hundreds of thousands of comments, which is larger than one single context window in an API request. You're talking about like that? Like okay, so what we're doing with that right now is first we just try it. If we get back that there's an error, context too large, too many tokens being tried to send for input, we'll then scrape it and we'll reduce it down to whatever it is that we need. And so in the example of comments, each comment could include the text for the comment, who posted the comment, which post is it on, what time was it posted, and so then what is the thing that I'm trying to do? Am I trying to generate a segment around that? If I'm just trying to generate segments, I don't necessarily need, the only thing I really need to generate segments are the comments. And so then I'll ditch 80% of the info. I'll run the query again with a subset of the info that's focused on what I want. That's one, either cut down the overall data set and make it a smaller data set, or two, process it in batches, send whatever the token limit is. Okay, you now have an answer that summarizes this block, and do like summaries, and then combine all those summaries together into another summary. So, I mean, that's in Recoup right now for musicians, for content generation, for content recommendations.
Not using that.
I am currently not using RAG, mostly because I haven't been able to wrap my head around it. Sid has been hitting me on the head saying use RAG, and I keep watching YouTube videos, and I'm just like, I don't get why I need this.
Yeah, that's a common thing, actually.
My context window keeps getting bigger. If I can just keep chucking more and more data in, why spend the time vectorizing my data? This might just be on this. You might have the right take, and maybe I do need to RAG, and I'm too small brain, and I actually need to understand this. But that is actually a thing that is like set itself in the back of my head. Is like, do I need to be using RAG right now? Is that actually something I need to take more seriously? But right now, I'm not using RAG, and my current hypothesis is RAG was a momentary gap to small context windows, which will go away as Sam Altman has said, the context window is going to grow to infinite size. I'm leaning into that hypothesis, and I'm thinking that that's the resolution. But if you think I'm missing something on RAG, I would love to know, because I don't want to be operating saying like, this wall doesn't exist and like I don't need to use RAG, when in reality that's going to like get me way further with a greater understanding of reality.
Last question.
Have I used Supabase? That's what I use for everything. I was using Firebase before. Eliza has a plugin for Supabase. So you just use the packages, adapters, Supabase, and it stores all the memory, all the conversation histories. You don't even have to think about the schema, just all you need to do is add this adapter into your Eliza, add your environment variables for your Supabase so that it has access. It'll go off to the races on its own. Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen. That was awesome. So thank you, everyone. This is AI Whispers. We meet every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. We also have a WhatsApp group, and I would love your feedback in the WhatsApp group of what type of things you want to learn about. You guys posted in there about agents, and so we got your agents. Now I understand what an agent